was created by man. It will grow to be 15 feet tall. It will have huge eyes, webbed hands, hooked claws. It will walk upright. And it will mindlessly, mercilessly kill every living thing it meets. Prophecy.
In 1979, a fairly respected director named John Frankenheimer, I think, wanted to throw his hat into sort of the pool of all of the popular high-profile directors making horror films that were considered films, not movies, in the 70s.
Like Jaws being the best example.
Jaws, The Exorcist, The Omen, The Shining, like all of these late 70s movies where real auteurs were attempting these genre exercises, right? Prophecy is a not much remembered one of these, and I'm not entering it in that canon of those movies that I just listed, but it was sort of where Hollywood was, where it wasn't, for some reason, it wasn't untoward for a high-profile director to make a big-budget horror movie. Like, it wasn't weird anymore. The other interesting thing about this movie is Frankenheimer moved production to British Columbia. It's one of the first major studio productions that came up and sort of started a big windfall in British Columbia for films and television being shot there. So it's sort of an important movie in that way. I also found out when, because you and I kind of compiled this list together, you brought this movie to my attention when I was reading up on it. It's a sort of a preferred guilty pleasure movie of Stephen King, who I'm a fan of. So I got all this information about the movie. Oh, it's historically significant to Canada. It's right in that sort of sweet spot of 70s horror. It's an interesting director. And, well, let's do this. Let's watch some Prophecy. And I was gobsmacked by it. Like, I have a hard time articulating my thoughts on the movie. Like, it is so fucking weird. Like, and it's another one of those great movies that would just never, it was so of its time and place. This movie would not be made that way today at all. The creature effects are barely adequate, to my mind. And you got Armand Assante playing a native person, which is something that people are increasingly sensitive to.
I think he's Italian and Irish.
Yeah, although I don't think he's bad in the movie. But like, it's the kind of stuff that would make people feel really uncomfortable. The whole way the Native American community is sort of portrayed in the movie is a little bit condescending, or maybe a lot, depending on the scene. And I just sort of sat there watching this on my computer with my mouth hanging open, like, what is this thing? It's like the first time someone sees a platypus, you know? So, it's not boring. It's certainly interesting, but I don't know if I could recommend it. It's just this movie called Prophecy. So help me, Brendan. Help me unpack Catartan, a mutant bear monster.
Yeah, I think you do need to start with the fact, Larry, that the late 70s, early 80s saw so many big budget genre movies.
Yeah.
A-list actors, A-list directors, resources towards what are clearly B movies.
There's no stigma to it at all.
Because it's the only way to explain how this got made. It's not an excuse for this movie, but it's an explanation for this movie. Because this movie is terrible. I thought it was terrible, but also bizarre in the way that usually small, scrappy, independent horror movies are. Not very good, very weird, and yet Talia Shire in it as well, Armand Assante, John Frankenheimer. Everything, they brought money to every part of this production, and only, you're right, probably at this moment would they have that much money for actors, for production, for such a terrible and eccentric piece of horror movie. I didn't want to say crap. It's not right. Camp? I'm not sure.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't want to completely say this is
not terrible.
Terrible movie. But it has all the ingredients of a terrible movie. And, like, you'd think by the description that we're talking about a no-budget movie, you know, made, you know, probably in Canada or something, right? But no, like you say, big-budget production. Also interesting to note, Frankenheimer, I think he was coming off of The French Connection 2 at this point, was fighting a losing battle with alcoholism. And he himself has admitted that it was in the phase where he thought he could, you know, be a professional director and a professional drinker simultaneously, and that some of the problems he has himself sort of borne the brunt of. But did it look good on paper?
Well, it was a best-selling novel, and that's where they always start. There had already been a mutant bear novel that had sold very well. And you see the aspirations. There are certain elements of this that are not just your low-budget, quickie horror movie. The attempt to touch on higher, more important themes. At the beginning of the movie, Talia Shire's boyfriend is working as a doctor in these poor neighborhoods in the ghettos in New York with poor kids being bitten by rats, and he gives a bunch of high-minded speeches about social inequality. And then this is supposed to tie in with his wanting to help these Aboriginal people in Maine, to help them with the problems they're having with the lumber mill. Here's another oppressed and disadvantaged people he's going to fight for. So it had that whole sort of pretension to big ideas and important social themes that you don't see in a quick horror movie. But it was clearly the writer trying to elevate the subject matter.
Well, I thought it was interesting, too, that he was just a raw nerve of compassion the whole time. Yeah, he's going to help, like I say, he works doctor in the ghetto, and he's going to go come help save this environmental crisis that's going on.
Right.
Help the But he has no interest in being a father himself, right?
Well, did he ever find out, Larry? I don't think he did, because you see, Talia Shire finds out she's pregnant, but she hasn't really told him. Because
she had said that he didn't want to be a father.
Okay, he probably had.
There was some sort of reason that she was like anxious about that. I don't know that it was he was too busy saving the world to focus his energies on a child or whatever, but I thought it was a weird sort of beat that she was so scared that he was not going to be this amazing father, because I also thought it was interesting they sort of tried to make this sort of big quest sort of vibe of the first third of the movie, right? We pull them out of the big city. There's the opening sting where people are killed by something in the woods, right? And then, they flies out to Maine, and they go on this epic car journey, and they meet the roadblock with the Native Americans, and then they get on a boat, and they sail, and there's all this, this grand sort of sweeping movement, like we're on this epic adventure. The way you wouldn't get in a typical Bear Beam movie, right? Where it was just like a bunch of kids go to the woods and are killed, right? There's something grand about the approach to the movie that you don't see in the smaller budget films, which it's, like I said, small budget aesthetic, big budget approach, and it feels strange.
It doesn't really, but especially though, because even though clearly when John Frankenheimer was filming it, he was taking the time to have all of these set up to make it a real journey from the slums of New York to the woods of Maine. The movie is under 2 hours long. So it got cut so much in editing.
But a lot of violence got cut out of it too.
It got cut so much so that it feels to me the movie ends very quickly. It builds up. It feels like a 2.5 hour movie where the opening, which should have been the slow leisure opening, is still there.
Right.
But then the ending, they barely discover the monster of the movie, the horrible bear who has been mutated, I guess, by mercury from the paper mill. They barely really encountered the mutant bear, and the movie's nearly over. It's the final shovel fight already.
Yeah.
And the problem, I just think, was when the studio saw how bad it was, they thought that they could just trim it down a little.
Yeah.
But it makes it even more uncomfortable, the long, epic takes of the beginning with how quickly everything is dispatched.
There is, yes, as you said, we haven't really, I guess, talked about the plot, although I think it's self-explanatory. People are being killed in the woods. They bring in this guy to help figure out what's going on. There's a company man who says it's not us, but he clearly finds out that it is them and finally ends up owning it and being killed, right? It's like the basic bare bones of the plot is sort of classic in a form. There's nothing really deep about it. But where I know the movie's not working, even though, like I say, I find it interesting and bizarre just watching it. It's such a strange movie. But when big characters get killed off, like when the company man who finally owns up to the fact that they've done wrong gets killed, I feel nothing. When Armando Sante stands his ground against the bear and is swiped off the screen, I feel nothing. When the Native American chief stands by the water's edge to face Godard and he gets ragdolled, I kind of laughed a little bit because it looked sort of silly. There's a scene where a camp is attacked and this kid is in a sleeping bag.
Oh, that's classic. It's a wonderful moment. He's hopping around. It's a banana yellow sleeping bag, hopping around wrapped up in the sleeping bag.
He doesn't even get out of the sleeping bag to run away from the bear. He hops away like... It's so absurd.
And then he gets hit by the bear, though. He gets hit by the bear, and there's a cloud of feathers that go up.
And he goes and it smashes against a rock or a tree, something, and it's like, it's meant to be taken seriously. I really think that they were going for serious, but like that is nothing but hilarious or slapstick or like a scene out of a whole different movie. Like, it's amazing that nobody on set was like, "Are we sure about this?" Right?
But yeah, there's a lot of unintentionally funny stuff, but you're also noting that a lot of the plot threads go nowhere, which is why I think over-editing.
Yeah.
Too much editing happened, so characters are established. They spend so long establishing Armand Assante's character as one of the leaders of the tribe, and his story doesn't develop. Talia Shire is worried because she does know she's pregnant. She eats some of the local tainted fish, which, when bears eat it, their children become mutants.
She also gets hella mauled.
Yes, she's worried her baby will be a mutant, but we never find out. We never find out what happened. That whole line, she's worried, but it's left at that. I don't even think we found out what her boyfriend thinks about her being pregnant in the end.
No,
because
all that track was set down and it didn't lead anywhere.
The writer, I'm sure, was furious about that. If you could get the writer, he's like, no, I'd set all of that up so there'd be a nice payoff for all of these characters, all these stories. But when it becomes a 95-minute movie, that all gets lost.
So to go back to where I started with this review, I'm like, I don't know what to say to the listeners out there. It's like, I don't think this is a good movie, but part of me says you should maybe take a look at it just because of how strange it is. But like, is that a recommendation?
Well, I've thought about this. These are genre movies we're talking about.
Yeah.
I watch bear movies because they're about bears mauling people. And to some extent, when you get into a genre like this, quality doesn't matter as much. It's a movie about a giant mutant bear, and yes, as you said, the effects look pretty stupid for the bear, but nonetheless, it's a giant mutant bear movie, and there are people who are going to watch it because that's what it is, and now we've alerted them to its existence, so we've done our part.
But when the final stinger comes up, and spoilers for Prophecy, everyone, this movie made in 1979, as they're flying away or escaping the danger, when another Katartan bear rears up its face and there's more mutant bears in the forest. Well, if there was anybody who was A, surprised by that, or B, scared by it, I will eat my hat.
Well, I was surprised and scared. It goes back to the silly shots. The way he pops up is so sudden. It's something off. I'm not a director, but it's almost like a pop-up toy.
Yeah, it's like
it springs up into the screen.
A Muppet emerging from under the
Exactly. And so there's something a bit shocking and a bit silly about it, just off, sort of in the spirit. It's a fitting end to the whole movie.
Yeah. But it's like, and then we credit slam down, like, credits.
Exactly.
Nailed it. And again, my jaw is just hanging open, like, what is this movie? What is this absurd Prophecy movie? And again, it's of its time and place. Nothing like this could ever be made other than when it was and how it was.
So there are people who would therefore enjoy seeing it, and you know who you are.
Yeah. Honestly, if you're like a millennial, or if you're just sort of a passive sort of watcher of horror movies, then thank you so much for listening to the podcast, by the way. But you could probably do better. Does this qualify as a bear movie? Technically, that was the one thing I was thinking. It's a mutant bear thingy, but it's
close enough.
It's It's the Harry and the Hendersons of this selection.
Who's my boy?